This man is a cloning metahuman named Danton Black, also known as Multiplex. Even though he was beaten up by others, he didn't get hurt at all. Instead, he kept shaking his body excitedly. So in a moment of desperation, he split up 5 clones from his body. Then he hit the bald man to death with a hammer. The next day, after Barry Allen, the Flash, got the news, he immediately found Cisco Ramon to search for information about the attacker. However, at the same time, Joe West and Eddie Thawne found a local geneticist. So when they were discussing who the killer might be, Danton Black suddenly came to the door. Then, without saying a word, he started shooting at them. Although both of them had received good military training, in the face of the crazy gunfire like a storm, they had no choice but to take cover in the corner. Seeing that the attacker kept coming their way, fortunately, Flash arrived just in time at the critical moment. Then he disarmed Black and sent Joe to a safe place. However, even though he was attacked immediately by the clones, in the face of an infinite number of duplicates, Barry could only do his best to resist. With just one punch, countless clones jumped out of Black's back. So surrounded by the crowd, Flash had no choice but to take cover helplessly. Then he was thrown out by the enemy. Seeing that Danton Black was ready to shoot him dead, Barry had no choice but to flee using his speed. Although he wanted to run, no one could stop him. But after this battle, Flash's self-esteem was severely damaged. He thought he wasn't qualified to be a superhero at all. Then he left STR Labs in a hurry. Then he wandered the streets like a headless fly. However, during his running, he suddenly thought of his father's death. Although his father was wrongfully imprisoned as a murderer, he still remained optimistic about life every day. So no matter what, Barry couldn't give up on himself. These 3 words woke Flash up completely, so he decided to put on the suit without hesitation. At the same time, Danton Black also sneaked into STR Labs. However, in the face of the armed guards, he took them down completely in just 3 hits. Then he confronted the geneticist's wife. However, just as he was about to shoot her to death, Flash arrived at the critical moment and hit him. Then Barry used his speed to dodge the bullet. Although in Flash's eyes, Danton Black's movements were slow, no matter how hard Barry attacked, the enemy kept evading. So Barry was again surrounded by multiple clones. Then the little fists kept punching him in the face. Seeing that the number of clones kept increasing, Barry had no choice but to break out of the encirclement. Then he asked the STR Labs team for help. Fortunately, Dr. Harrison Wells, Cisco, and Caitlin Snow had already seen the truth. It turned out that the man wasn't a true split body, but someone who could create countless clones. But there was only one original among them. Due to the strain of controlling all the duplicates, as long as Barry found the most exhausted one, he could end it all. Without hesitation, Flash rushed back into the fight. Then he ran through layers of clones. Finally, he found a man sweating heavily at the very back. Obviously, that was the original body of Danton Black. So Barry took him out without hesitation and slammed him into a pillar. Once the real body was crushed, the countless clones also collapsed. Obviously, this battle was Barry's victory. They once again saved the world from danger. This man is a gas-based metahuman named Kyle Nimbus, known as the Mist. During a company board meeting, a strange gas suddenly sprayed from the floor. Then one of the men started having difficulty breathing. With toxic human-like smoke, everyone on site died. However, when the police arrived, they found that not only were the doors and windows sealed shut, even the glass had been replaced with steel. Clearly, the killer was another metahuman. So, in order to uncover the truth, they immediately analyzed evidence from the lab. And after a detailed inspection by Caitlin Snow, it was found that the victim's lungs contained 2 types of DNA. So obviously, Kyle Nimbus wasn't poisoning people manually, he was turning into gas using his powers. At the same time, at a mall graduation party, Lisa, who was a judge, was just about to leave for home. But the elevator door was blocked by a bald man, the same attacker, the Mist. Without warning, he released his toxic breath. When Barry and the others arrived at the scene, they found the female judge had already died. So Barry rushed off immediately. As expected, he caught up to the Mist in an alley. Although Barry reached the scene in a flash, his attacks were completely ineffective, and he suffered a heavy beating from the gaseous form. He had no choice but to return to STR Labs immediately, because the gas had already disrupted his breathing. Fortunately, Caitlin treated him in time, and thanks to his high-speed healing ability, Barry quickly recovered. Later, after analysis, they discovered that the Mist was targeting people who had wronged him before, a family member who framed him, the female judge who sentenced him, and the officer who arrested him. Soon after, the Mist found his next target. It was Detective Joe West, who couldn't believe his eyes. He thought the man was already executed. But in the next second, Kyle turned into smoke, then solidified and began choking him. Fortunately, the Flash arrived just in time and injected the only antitoxin serum into Joe. Kyle Nimbus escaped through the ventilation system, so Barry chased after him without hesitation. However, seeing the Flash appear didn't scare the Mist. Instead, he turned into poisonous gas again and tried to kill Barry completely. Unfortunately, Barry could only dodge as best as he could. He tried to counterattack, but when he charged into Kyle, the Mist reformed and escaped again. Luckily, Caitlin quickly came up with a plan. As long as Barry kept running and forced Nimbus to keep chasing him, the gas form would tire out. Sure enough, after the Mist unleashed a fierce attack, he had no choice but to return to his human form. Barry seized the opportunity and knocked him out, finally managing to stop the gas-based killer for good.